News reports indicate Hunter Biden took the motorcade to an expensive bagel shop this weekend. Reporters, however, were baffled that he got the bagels in a brown bag from a shady guy in an alley. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ruthless.
Democrats are set to take control of the U.S. Senate, House, and the White House.
This will go down as one of the most progressive administrations in American history.
God willing, everything is on the table.
You now can pass things without a filibuster threat.
Oh, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Well, welcome to the variety program.
Yes, it is.
We once again, we dance, we sing, and we entertain.
We're a triple threat over here. That was a great episode. We got a lot of good feedback, and we're gonna keep this content train moving.
We are, and if anybody asks you, I think we just have a new shorthand for Ruthless. I think we just say it's a variety program.
It really is variety program.
So,
we're gonna need some ideas, I think, from the fans for our next song.
Oh yeah,
that's right. We got to keep the singing going.
I'm a team player. I sing the high harmony because I'm a team player. It's a little out of my vocal range.
Slack.
It's a little out of my vocal range, but I do it because you know what? I'm a team player. And
Duncan's an alto, like an angel.
The best part about every episode since his first singing performance, he's tried to qualify his performance for the listeners.
Well, all I'm saying for the listeners, look, all I'm saying for the listeners is if they make some suggestions, know that my more natural vocal range is a baritone.
You think you're a baritone?
I mean, I guess we'll find out.
You nailed that alto.
I just want people to know, you know, when you go to a restaurant and you order something, they're like, oh, we don't have that after you've ordered it.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen here. So just for the minions, I already suggested he do Annie tomorrow. And Michael declined.
No,
right. So I know that's high on the list. And just know that it's off the table.
I know, man. Looks like I have a feeling we're gonna get some tweets demanding Annie from Duncan, and you got to give the people what they want. It's a very simple proposition on this show.
Unbelievable.
So what do we have?
Well, so I want to just start off with another super fan of the program. We've talked about had the high engagement by people, particularly in the media, and there's another one over at the Federalist, Ben Domenech, who had some very nice things to say about the program on Fox.
He did. I saw that. That was awesome.
So I'd like to thank him for being a listener and for the kind words, particularly about our game show. But he also, in the process, has written some absolutely terrible, sort of intellectually lazy, completely ridiculous.
What, really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And over the weekend, there was a couple of things that are just like gratuitous nonsense that I called him out on, and he didn't care for it. And so he wrote a column, I guess, ostensibly about me. Let me just read the lead because I think this.
Did he really?
Yeah, let me just give you here. Josh Holmes, the Mitch McConnell acolyte who defends him with sleek loyalty of Grima Wormtongue with a full Windsor, called me a dipshit the other day.
Wait, so I've been out of pocket. Typically on weekends, I'm less available.
Yeah.
This all went down this weekend?
He wrote the column on Monday, but let me just say, I looked at the lead, and first off, I'm not a fucking dork, so I had to Google what Grima Wormtongue is, and it's actually worse than I thought. Do you know what this is, Smug?
I don't know. Is that a slur?
Is
that a slur?
It's a Lord of the Rings reference.
Is it? Shit, I feel bad. I should have known that. Should have known that.
Come on. So I could have stopped right there because listen, I'm not going to take someone who's rolling an 18-sided dice on a Monday. Okay?
But it's Grima Wormtongue. Is that the name of it? I should have known this. Apologies to my friends at Founder Fund and Peter Thiel. I'll be better about the Lord of the Rings. Damn, I can't believe I missed that one.
Well, you're famous for not reading, Smug.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. It sticks with my brand. So you got hit with the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
reference?
you're also not a total nerd, so I can understand it. But there's two things here that he did get right in that first paragraph. One, I did call him a dipshit. That is correct.
Oh my God.
I did call him a dipshit. And two, look, I defend McConnell loyally, and everybody knows that who listens to the program. I've been around him for 15 years. The man is like family to me. And I know that family concept isn't for everybody, but for me, I defend my family.
Oh, that's brutal. That's a brutal subtweet.
I mean nothing by it.
I guess they call the show Ruthless for a reason.
By it. I'm not, I was thinking about going as a point by point on all of the sort of idiocy of the column. I'm not going to do that. I think Duncan, if you're looking for reference as to what a rebuttal would look like, Duncan did this in spades on Twitter. It looked like a napalm bomb in Domino's front yard.
Yeah, I mean, I did the reading because Smug refuses to read. I'm like,
I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, I'm like the kid in class that everyone cheats off of right before the homework's due. So it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I did a thread. I mean, my basic thesis here is that people like Ben Domenech will like argue around the problem over and over and over again when it's obvious and right in front of our face. I mean, Donald Trump called the election rigged for 2 months. That's why we lost the Georgia runoffs. Okay. It's as simple as that, but we can't say that. We can't say the simple truth because Trump has to be absolved of any culpability, any agency whatsoever. The actual literal fucking president of the United States has no influence over any of this stuff in Ben Domenech's world because he'd rather lie to his readers than fucking tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Here's my question. We get those $2,000 checks.
Yeah, let's bring
folks before Georgia. I think we win that, right?
It's just complete bullshit. It's just complete. It
would have been right around Christmas. Everyone's got $2,000 in their pocket, and they're like, you know what? It's time to vote Republican.
I'll remind you,
it's going to be a nice Christmas. We're making it rain.
Here's my favorite part. Here's my favorite part about the $2,000 debate. Okay, let me accept the insanity. There's no serious political professional that would say that, but let's accept the insanity and suggest that did make a big difference. It's still Donald Trump's problem. He's the one that inserted it after the agreement was done.
Correct, which is another thing, Holmes, which the Ben Domenech of the world can't admit. That what Trump actually did with the $2,000 checks was blow up a process after the fact because he was pissed. Because he was pissed that Mitch McConnell acknowledged that Joe Biden won the election. It's as simple as that. It has nothing to do with him really wanting to fight for the working man for $2,000. That's bullshit. And everybody knows it, but nobody will say it. Okay?
You know who will say it? Duncan.
And here's the other thing. I don't know, by the time we were having these debates, like 75% of the vote was already in through absentee ballots and early voting. Okay. We didn't lose a bunch of persuadable voters because of the 2000 checks debate. We got the turnout in a lot of places that we needed on election day. I mean, over 1 million on election day was what a lot of the people watching all of the polling data said we needed to get because we were going to win election day overwhelmingly. You know where we didn't get turnout? North Georgia, where Trump just fucking nuked us with rigged election stuff.
They're known for liking $2,000 checks.
Oh, come on.
You know what else they're known for? Taking buses to get to Washington, D.C. for the insurrection instead of voting on election day.
It's silly. It's just silly on its face. I mean, this is Occam's razor stuff, folks. And the reason why we just can't acknowledge it is people are scared. People like Ben are scared of just telling voters the fucking truth.
Yeah.
He cost us Georgia. He is responsible for the riot. I don't know ultimately if that's incitement. Like I'm not a lawyer or whatever, but to deny gravity and say he doesn't bear responsibility, to spend 5,000 words attacking my business partner and then through some sort of mental gymnastics and denialism, not say at all that Donald Trump bears one scintilla of responsibility for where we find ourselves as a party. It's
I
fucking
think-
it's fucking bankrupt. It's bankrupt.
I think and this is the last thing I'll say about this. I think he actually assigned a position to me that I do not hold. Right? I think he assigned to me the idea that impeachment is a good idea.
Right. I mean,
I've
does
never
anybody
said
think
that.
it's a good idea?
I've literally never ever said that.
Right. Yeah,
Or
neither have I.
Or suggested it. But anyway, okay, let's get off of that because the point of the program, and this is a big show for this, is to not look backwards. It's to look forward. It's to entertain the new generation of Republican. And we have a big one on today with Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. He is a rock star in the biggest possible way.
Huge.
And we're going to get to that in the final segment.
Yeah, I mean that's a hell of a get, folks. You might remember him from keynoting the RNC, and this is a rock star already, not in the making. We got a rock star right here, and it's going to be great having him on the show. I've heard great things.
Are we? You want to get into the variety program?
Let's do a variety program.
Well, because Ben, as you recall, maybe from his plug on Fox, mentioned specifically the game show component of our program.
So this is dedicated to Domino.
I appreciate it. Hey, man, no hard feelings. Right into the fun stuff. So we're doing Spot the Dem again. And for our listeners who missed the last episode, basically what I do is read 4 tweets or statements from journalists. And one of those statements is actually not a journalist. It's a Dem operative. And the fellas here have to decide which one is the Dem operative.
Can we get the music? The only thing I'm really interested in here is the music.
Yeah, moderate Jeff, can you hit us with the game show music, please?
It's just fucking slick. I love it.
It's nice.
It's a good. Gets you in the mood for a game show.
You know what it is? It's a real professional touch for the variety program, is what it is. So, okay, this is Spot the Dem, and it's in particular the Washington Post columnist edition. And
Specific.
it is specific. And the reason why I wanted to do this is I really wanted to up the ante.
Okay.
Like make it even more difficult because, as you know, columnists are people with a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
But ostensibly they have some, I don't know, self-respect. So maybe they would not write these things. Anyway, tweet number 1. Here we go. The world is watching, and the Biden administration is not going to appease Russia the way Trump did these last 4 years. Bear emoji, Russia emoji, tree emoji. I know there's a tree. Anyway, that's tweet number 1.
Wait, did you say bear and tree?
A bear, then Russia, and then a tree.
Oh, I got some good. Do you want me to talk out any clues there?
Yeah. Talk them out. Talk them out.
I mean, if you want to, you guys are in competition, as you may recall.
I think we talk it out still.
Okay.
All right. So at the risk of giving away my advantage, Russia was mentioned, and an emoji with a bear and a tree recall to me a Reagan Bear in the Woods ad.
Wow. Oh, wow. Deep cut.
And if that is, so we're talking about somebody who fancies themselves a historical buff, which would not be a Dem operative unless it's like Steve Schmidt, who with his faux intellectualism.
Nice.
Which would be a nice curveball for this game, actually, if it was Steve Schmidt.
That would be a curveball.
All right, that's it. All right, that's the first one. Okay.
Okay. All right, on to the second tweet here. And it's a short one, so I'll give you a little context. This context is Biden's COVID response is the context of this statement. Already, it's refreshing to hear the T word, the truth word.
I didn't know where that was going.
I didn't know where that was going either.
Yeah.
Not other T's in the news.
Nice to know.
I love this
nice
game.
to know we're very mature over here on this program. On the program.
It's a variety program. It's not a mature program. So that's tweet number 2, or it's a statement. That one's
Just
not
straight up,
actually
it's good to hear the T word.
Yeah, the truth word.
These people.
They had to wind it up with the refreshing part. Anyway, tweet number 3. This is in response to the Biden inauguration. Thank you. Let's do this again tomorrow. That was an out-of-body experience. So refreshing. Transport to another universe. Competent, straight shooter, polite. So yeah, that's like the first statement about the first day and the first press conference in the Biden.
It really is difficult to tell these people apart, these clowns. So to be clear, there's 3 operatives, 1 journo.
No, the opposite.
No. 3 journos, 1 operative.
Unbelievable, dude.
Sad. Here's tweet number 4. President Biden's been tougher on Russia the last 4 days than Trump was in 4 years.
You gotta be kidding me.
And it has to be said, what's the name of the activist in Russia that got jailed? The one that Putin tried poisoning.
Navalny?
Yeah. So this happens while Biden's there, and who was the woman that was speaking for him? Was it his wife? That on video she was like, surrounded by reporters and supporters,
captured by the
stormtroopers. That like Russian riot police just like grabbed mid-air and just like took her away. All under Biden's watch.
It just goes to show. I mean, so much about our news consumption is just absolutely made up.
Yeah.
How anybody could say that. In fact, I mean, maybe that. All right. So those are our statements.
All right.
Smug, are you picking first?
Yeah, I think.
Wait, hold on. You got to show him your number. I'll turn away.
Okay.
So you can talk it out now.
Wait. No.
He can
say
no. He can talk. He can talk it out. Oh, okay.
Holmes can see it. I don't care.
We had a change. We had a change of heart.
It's a change up. It's a change up.
For the folks at home, for the folks at home, Smug just did a little curveball. He initially picked one of those 4, and then changed his decision.
Yeah, it's a change.
So now Holmes has the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire ability to talk out his selection.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm pretty sure that 1 is a journo because that's just like too much historical.
I really appreciated your analysis there.
Yeah, self-congratulations. 4 is so over the top and ridiculous that it just doesn't feel like it could come from an operative.
Oh, you think it's a red herring? You think I'm taking you off the scent?
I just think that even if you're a Dem operative who's a complete hack, those words couldn't come out of your mouth. Like, you have to be a columnist who doesn't know shit from Shinola in order to utter those words. Right? So for me, it's between 2 and 3, and I'll be honest, like, I'm going to go 3.
Oh,
wow.
Sad for both of you who picked 3. That was Jen Rubin.
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, that's a tough call, though, honestly.
Well, she's indistinguishable from a Dem operative.
Yeah. It's just to remind our audience, tweet number 3 that Holmes and Smug both picked here. Thank you. Let's do this again tomorrow. That was an out-of-body experience. So refreshing. Transportation to another universe. Competent, straight shooter, polite.
Unbelievable.
Yikes. Yikes.
All right. So who's won?
James Holman from the Washington Post as well.
You know what? There. Look at my reasoning. He wrote a Reagan book.
That was very.
Oh wow,
that was very smart, Holmes.
He wrote a Reagan book.
I liked that.
Okay.
And then
I'm impressed. That's pretty fucking impressive, honestly.
What's 2?
2 is from an appearance on a different type of program, Reliable Sources, with our friend Brian Stelter.
Potato.
It wasn't him though. It wasn't him. It was I'll read it again. Already, it's refreshing to hear the T word, the truth word. That was Karen Atia, a global opinion editor at the Washington Post.
Oh my gosh! So it's number 4.
It is number 4. It's number 4. That was from Scott Dworkin, who's that Dem loser reply guy. At Funder. Go ahead. Open up at Funder Twitter and
I'm blocked, but I want to say a year or two ago, it was maybe Lachlan at the Daily Beast who had an article about how that guy Funder is just like funneling all the money to like himself and his consultancy that like they raised to
allegedly
that many people are saying.
Many people are saying.
And citing a report, and citing a news report.
He cited a news report. Lawyers, do not cut this part of the bit.
So many folks, man, they're going to be out of a job now that Trump isn't here. Oh
my God, is that what
the doorbell?
Have?
There's a doorbell.
Yes, I made. Give me a second, gentlemen.
Folks, the doorbell just rang at Smug's place of residence.
Wait, hold on. He's getting up.
We have to pause the program.
This is great. Let's keep rolling. Are we gonna meet the cleaning lady? I hope. I don't know. You know what? With any luck, we can have another guest here on the program, an unanticipated guest on the program.
Oh,
what do you think, Dunks?
This is the way news is made live.
I appreciate it. Let's do it live, right?
Is she gonna come on the program?
I think she's gonna do the job that she needs to. So where are we now, folks?
Okay, quick transition.
not even gonna entertain it.
All right, so that's the end of our game show. Let's play the music. Play us out of the game show.
Yes, moderate Jeff. Play that music.
All right, so coming back out of this, we wanted to do this because we want to get right to it. But we would be remiss if we haven't brought up the fact that COVID politics are rapidly changing, as you might have noticed. And basically, just by changing administration and none of the policy, all of a sudden, the media, Democratic governors, corresponding public opinion amongst Democrats, everything changes. Yeah. Nothing has changed. We're still at a damn peak in terms of COVID infections, but if you listen to Democrats, we're done. It's over.
Yeah, and you know what? This honestly is one of the things that upsets me the most. Is these people, these Democrat governors, played politics with people's lives, their health, their livelihoods, all for just it was straight up politics. There's this tweet I found about Gavin Newsom specifically. It says Gavin Newsom lifted California's emergency stay-at-home orders with 50% less ICU beds available now than the day he implemented it. You know, think about that. The situation has gotten worse in California, but now that we got Biden here, hey, like all those jokes that folks had that like, as soon as Biden wins, COVID's going to disappear. I mean, that was cynical, but the way these Dem governors are acting is far more cynical, and it's inexcusable.
Well, it quite literally is playing politics with people's lives and livelihoods. I mean, you've seen the statistics that that we've had in terms of suicides amongst teens.
Yeah, awful.
We've obviously the economic component with small businesses closing and people becoming more desperate about trying to figure out how to provide for their families. I mean, the idea that somehow this is just purely political with them is so enraging. Like I can't even really wrap my mind around it.
I mean, it was like I want to say it was Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, right? Who was like, "Oh yeah, we need restaurants to reopen." This is like, a week after the election was like, "We need restaurants to reopen immediately." The shutdown is over. Not, as the scientists or as the Democrats rather were just saying over and over, we listen to the scientists. We're going to follow the science. We're going to follow the science. It's pretty clear they're not. And, the fact that the media ran with that line for them so hard when now, it's obvious, and you're not going to have any journalists point it out. They were Team Biden from the beginning, and they're not going to look like fools now.
Well, but how they have framed, it's not just like the Democratic governors, but how we have framed the new debate is something that is, you really have to almost admire at how cynical it is.
Mhm.
So CNN, just a couple of days after President Biden is inaugurated, MJ Lee at CNN puts out a piece. Let me read the lead. Newly sworn in President Joe Biden and his advisors are inheriting no coronavirus vaccine distribution plan to speak of from the Trump administration, sources tell CNN, posing a significant challenge for the new White House.
Okay, sure.
Oh, is that right?
Imagine being that big of a coward that you run for over a year on, I have a plan. My name is Joe Biden. I'm the responsible person who dealt with past pandemics, and I'm going to set us straight day one. And then you have your administration lie and say there's no plan while we're vaccinating over 1 million people a fucking day. It's just like delusional.
So just to pick up on that, credit where it is due. There are a couple of reporters who do still have some integrity, and a couple of them who have followed this very closely, including I might add, Ruthless superfan Dan Diamond, shout out because this guy's done some really good work here. Let me read a paragraph from the Washington Post over the weekend that speaks directly to this. Even with vaccine shortages and bottlenecks in delivery, the pace needed to meet the new administration's goal, 1 million doses per day, was already achieved Friday and 4 other days of the previous 8, according to Washington Post data. The accelerated speed of the program undercuts assertions by some Biden advisors that they were left no plan by the Trump administration and suggests they need to only keep their feet on the pedal to clear the bar they've set for themselves. I mean,
wow, there it is.
That's a full takeout. Like that basically takes a CNN article, tears it up, throws it in the trash, and lights it on fire.
There it is.
So, I mean, good work. Good work, honestly.
Yeah, can we start calling Dan Diamond friend of the pod?
I think, I know he listens. It's probably not great for his career to have us, even when we're saying nice
things. He can't admit he loves this show, and it burns him that his taskmasters force him to push garbage against Republicans. Deep inside, Dan Diamond, he loves the free market.
Guy writes a good story. Smug goes right to the oppo. Just slams the guy.
Well, I'll just say this was a very intellectually honest take, and it goes to the one piece of audio I want to play here, which is President Biden himself taking the mask off this entire thing and telling you exactly what he's got going on in his administration.
Because there's nothing we can do to change the trajectory of the pandemic in the next several months.
Okay, so he says there's nothing you can do. Okay.
Perfect.
Now that
I don't remember that from the pitch during the campaign. Do you guys?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like,
Big
okay,
asterisk.
folks, remember this. There's nothing we can do. And all the cars in the parking lot start honking.
Yeah. Nothing we can do. Nothing we can do. Honk, honk, honk. Nothing we can do. Yeah.
Go get him, Joe. Nothing we can do.
And it's also, while I'm dragging Dem governors, it's important to point out, Reuters put this out. New York Governor Cuomo said he planned to relax a number of unspecified restrictions in the days ahead, as long as transmission rates there remained low. Let me tell you, folks, number one, transmission rates are not remaining low, but all the Dem governors are just relaxing all the unspecified restrictions. There's going to be a reckoning. I'll tell you what, there's going to be a reckoning, which takes place, maybe even before we beat COVID, where a lot of these Dem governors are basically, mini kings of their states. They're not having to deal with the legislature. They're not having to go through any sort of a process. It's just these edicts that they're putting out. They're these, for all intents and purposes, they're like little dictators of their states, deciding what businesses are open, what businesses are closed, not based on science. Like outdoor dining, Newsom closed it. There's no science to support that decision.
Aren't they opening up partial dining indoors in DC now too?
They are. I think it's the restaurants are supposed to be limited to like 25% capacity.
Let's remember that when Mitch McConnell brought the Senate back in session in, April and May of last year, every reporter was talking about how irresponsible it was and how he had blood on his hands and how dangerous it was. There's more daily cases in DC now than there were then.
That's a perfect juxtaposition. I mean, that's totally right. I will say, and I want to cover this on Thursday, Smug, because I think we have more to talk about, but your point is absolutely correct. And that they have created this little fiefdom of socialism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have watched what the Biden administration has done in their first few days, like, we as conservatives cannot spend another second fighting amongst ourselves here. We cannot look backwards. We are as close to socialism and fundamentally changing this country into a Western European country as we have ever been in my lifetime because of COVID. We have gotten to a place where even Republicans are comfortable spending $4 trillion, stealing tax dollars out of everybody's pockets and then handing it out to the people who they deem worthy. That is socialism, folks. That's what that is. If we don't wake up and take some of our freedom back peacefully, I might add, it's going to be a really, really different country for us when we finally do figure out how to get power back. So, look, it's a call to
along
arms.
those lines. I got to point out these headlines I dropped the other day. So this is from MSN. The U.S. has suffered the sharpest rise in poverty in 50 years. Thank you, Joe Biden. And then I love the follow up here. Is in Forbes had an article where Dr. Fauci is the highest paid person in the federal government. He made $417,608.
It's a tough headline.
I mean,
Fauci, huh?
Look at that, right?
That's
another thing is, these public employees, these government people, they haven't missed a paycheck. They don't know what it's like out there.
No, absolutely not. And speaking of a guy, I got to hit this before we get to Daniel. The guy who also lives on the government dole, who has presided over the absolute destruction of his city, is the Portland mayor, Ted Wheeler.
Now, I remember this guy. He essentially just allowed, the Biden riots to go.
They're still going. I don't know.
They're still going, right? Yeah.
They're still, nobody pays attention, but like, it's still happening. And terrific Ted out in Portland had his own little interaction over the weekend.
What happened there?
So this is a guy who, as you recall, for 9 months has stood down while his police officers and first responders get bats to the head every night, right? Trying to protect their city. He's basically just said, look, it's a peaceful demonstration. And they literally burned it down. They literally burned it right down.
Mostly peaceful, arsonists.
So this dude goes out to dinner with a buddy and he's eating and he's confronted by a maskless patron who's upset that the mayor himself is not wearing a mask. The writing's not terrific in this piece, so it's hard to decipher exactly how this interaction happened. But the mayor, when receiving his constituent, decided to warn him that he in fact armed himself with pepper spray and would not hesitate to use it.
What happens next?
Undeterred, the patron continues. But that's where the last laugh happens, because old Wheeler whips out the pepper spray and does exactly what he said he'd do. He sprays him right in the eyes.
The mayor sprayed the guy down, right?
Hits him right in the eyes. And his quote is that I sprayed him right in the eyes. It's like, here you go. He's like, no deterrent.
Right. What I love here, Holmes, is, there's an awful lot of people like old Ted who like to play Monday morning quarterback on, are the police using excessive force? But when it comes to his ass, when his ass is on the line, preemptive strike, immediate preemptive strike.
I'll tell you what, man, like I personally, I commend the guy. Good job, Mayor Wheeler. If I'm dining and someone shouts at me for any purpose, if I've got pepper spray, it's hitting their eyes. I'm trying to have a nice meal and someone starts shouting. I think if it's like above, if there's voices above like room level, every diner is well within their rights.
Hit him with the
open
pepper
fire.
Spray. Yeah.
Justice begins with each of us.
Would you pepper spray a child?
I mean, listen, if
because I know your opinion of children who are ill behaved.
He doesn't.
Yeah, I think the thing is, you take your child into public, and now public justice applies to the child. Like if it's screaming and wild, it's up to every parent to teach the child how to behave in public. I'll tell you what, when I was growing up, quiet as a whisper when we were out in public. Kids these days, though, running amok. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just so you
if
know,
I'm in
if you-
Philomena and some like toddlers running around screaming their head off, you better believe if there's pepper spray on me, the child's catching it.
Unbelievable.
you give Smug some bad specials, you're getting hit with the pepper spray. That's good to know. All right. Well, look, we got to turn to this because this is a very, very, very big interview. We're absolutely privileged and honored that Daniel Cameron, the Kentucky Attorney General, has joined us on the program. He is a big fan, he added, and so is many of his friends who've been urging him to come on. So this is awesome. Let's take a listen. All right. So welcome, my good friend, Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Thank you so much for coming on the program, my man.
I am so glad to be here, Josh, and this is a big moment. I've got a buddy of mine who has been pining for me to be on this show for a little while. So I'm glad I'm finally getting on so he can tell all his friends that I've made it on the Ruthless podcast. So I'm happy to be here, brother.
I mean, your buddy is a man of high esteem, I'm sure, but that says something because there's a line around the block trying to get you on programs these days. You're a big star now.
No, this is look. I've known you, of course, for a long time, and have gotten to know your sidekick a little bit as well, and your partner in crime, and you all put out some great content. I was reminded. I was listening to I guess the Tom Cotton interview a few weeks ago, and he was mentioning the fact that he was a big Tony Kornheiser fan as well, and I put this podcast right up there with the Tony Kornheiser podcast.
There we go. All right. Moving on up. I love it. Well, one of the things that we're doing here in 2021 is a conversation I think a lot of Republicans are having sort of at their dinner table and around Lincoln Day dinners and things. And it's kind of the future of the party and what that looks like. And, I gotta be honest, I'm surrounded with a group of friends that every time we think about what the future of the Republican Party looks like and sounds like, a big smiling picture of Daniel Cameron occurs to us immediately. And I thought, who better to start this process with than bringing you in?
You're too kind, and obviously I don't know if I deserve that sort of talk or what have you. But I am, obviously glad to be here on this on the show and to talk about the future of the Republican Party and what it looks like, and how perhaps we all collectively as young Republicans can be involved in shaping its future.
So for our listeners who aren't as familiar with you, Daniel, you were elected Attorney General of Kentucky in 2019. First African-American statewide official elected in Kentucky. All of us who had a part in watching your campaign were just supremely impressed at how you put that thing together, ran on the issues, and really vaulted to the top there. But it was only like 6 months later, and all of a sudden you're headlining the RNC.
It has been I would say 2020 was a surreal in many ways. And, there were peaks and there were some valleys. The peak being the RNC speech and having the opportunity to advocate for the principles that I hold as it relates to the Republican Party and why I was attracted to the Republican Party and why that has been sort of the root of my family and small government and small community and how those all blend with the Republican Party and this great lineage we have from Abraham Lincoln. And so it was an honor to be able to speak there. And of course, you don't want to make a fool of yourself. And, so I was glad to have gotten off that stage without making any serious blunders. But it was a great opportunity to just talk about what the Republican Party can look like going forward and how the values that we all hold dear and the ones that we talk about in our small communities around the dinner table are so important to our future. And I think it's important. Look, we just came out of a pretty contentious election year, but it's important for us to have a vision that we can give to the country of a Republican Party that smiles and is gracious in how we communicate with each other and strike a civil tone, but know that there are going to be some serious disagreements that we have with the folks on the other side of the aisle. But we can do it in a respectful manner, and we can beat people in terms of our ideology, if you will, as opposed to other various means. So I'm excited, and thanks for allowing me an opportunity to talk a little bit about
Yeah, the one obvious takeaway from your speech at the RNC, which was, man, I've never seen a guy so nicely stick the knife in deeper than Daniel Cameron. I mean, you were pleasant, smiling, just engaging as all get out in a way that, those of us who know you obviously have come to appreciate. But I think for a whole bunch of people who didn't know you before, we're like, wow, this is a really nice guy. Meanwhile, he's laying down just the most absolutely incredible critiques of Joe Biden at the time, which, of course, were all entirely factual. But I think you're right. I mean, you just made reference to being able to express ourselves in a way that doesn't automatically sort of make us the enemy to half the country.
That's right. And look, I think if you can, the old adage, killing them with kindness, I think is really something that we should take to heart in terms of the political arena and the public sphere. And so I've tried in the way that I convey our messages, here in the AG's office, or as my time as Attorney General, we're about defending and promoting the rule of law, standing up for constitutional rights. And we've had an occasion or two to sort of push back against the governor on some of his COVID-19 restrictions and the conversation around what does executive power look like during the midst of COVID-19. And so we've had that conversation, but we've had it in a civil tone. And I try to keep a smile on my face regardless of the situation. I've obviously we've had some challenges here in the Commonwealth here over 2020. And like I tell people all the time, you never know what's going to come around the bend, but it's important that you represent yourself, your family, and frankly, the Commonwealth in a way that's one, relatable, but two, shows compassion and empathy for the folks that are around you. We talk a lot about the responsibility to speak for the voiceless, to speak for the vulnerable. And I think that is consistent and aligned with not only the role as Attorney General, but also the role and the values of the Republican Party. Again, I talk a lot about Lincoln and Eisenhower and the responsibility that they had in governing and keeping this country together in some contentious moments. And you look at the Reagan always talking about that shining city on a hill. Those are and even look, George H.W. Bush talking about the points of light and referencing compassionate conservatism that extended to his son's time in office. And so there's been a strain of that in the Republican Party. I think we just need to, as we move forward, talk more about that. Again, not at all sort of moving past our values. We've got to stand firm on our values, but we can do it in a way or with a smile on our face.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because I think the one thing that stands out for those of us who knew you before your public service and we're wondering basically how that translates in a day-to-day political job, because, we know you personally, but when you're under the hot lights, different people go in different ways. And
I've been doing a lot of sweating here, Josh. I'm gonna be honest.
It's hard not to, but the one thing I've been consistently impressed by, and I think that's a part of that with what you just said to us a minute ago, is that you focused on sort of timeless principles, things like life issues, things like liberty with COVID-19 restrictions, your ability to make a living, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Turns out those are pretty important words that guide this country. And you have really laid a foundation in some timeless conservative principles and largely avoided kind of the political winds of the day. Is that kind of where you see your message to the Republican Party?
Yeah, look, I think, standing on principle is important. I sort of take a look at my Republican values as sort of a homespun conservatism. And I think of the way of, I grew up in Elizabethtown, E-Town for short, Hardin County, small community, everybody in the community, and you see them on the street and you say hello to them. That's, in my judgment, homespun, small town conservatism, where you take care of your family, You take care of your folks at church, and then it kind of spreads out from there. Meaning, that's where the root of our culture and our values come from. And when somebody needs that lending, a hand up or a lending hand or help, they don't go to, quote unquote big government. They go to their local church, or they go to their local nonprofit or other civically minded organizations, as opposed to going to government as a first resort, that being a last resort. Obviously, government has to play a role in our society, but it's a last resort. I think that's how most folks in small communities all across this country think about the role that they play in society and in their community. And so I've tried to embody that in the AG's office of staying in our lane, making sure that we're standing up for the rule of law, we're standing up for constitutional rights. Obviously, again, that became a big issue and topic in 2020, continues to be a huge topic now because of COVID-19 and some of the onerous restrictions we saw placed on folks through our governors. And I've said from the beginning, look, you try to do this with a smile on your face. There's no animus in any of the decision-making process that we make in the AG's office when we're standing up for constitutional rights. I understand that governors have a huge responsibility in keeping people safe, but the number one job of an attorney general, and I think conservatives realize and recognize this, and frankly, people of all political stripes, I hope, can appreciate this, that we have to stand up for the constitutional rights of our citizens. And I think we've been attempting to strike the right balance here in Kentucky. And I know other states that have attorneys general who view these issues in the same way that I do, have tried to stand up and fight that good fight as well. But it's not because of any in any way to toot my own horn or toot the horn of our office. It's simply to promote the values of our citizens. And I think that that's the responsible thing to do in government. And we're going to continue to do that.
Well, one of the things that you just mentioned that is clearly a big topic of conversation as we're dealing with COVID and vaccines and, this winter and new spikes and all of that, is that governance is lockdowns. And you've been pretty outspoken, both officially and just rhetorically, about how you view all that. I'm assuming a lot of that is based on your upbringing as a child of small business. Your family owned a coffee shop, isn't that right?
That's exactly right. And I was probably making lattes and cappuccinos at a far too early of an age, but they humored me by allowing me to do it. And I think there's probably a lot of customers that were probably spitting out lattes and cappuccinos once they left the store. But again, in an effort to humor me, they allowed me to make them. But yeah, no, look, my parents owned a small business and it's called Zach's Coffee. And, every day I saw my parents would leave the shop and, I saw the real struggles of owning a small business. And your listeners know, the margins in restaurants and coffee shops and all really, frankly, small businesses are extremely slim. And so when you have a response to a pandemic, which look, this is serious and we need to take it as such, and social distancing is important and mask wearing is important. But when you have decisions that are being made by government officials, and then those government officials aren't necessarily having to contend with those restrictions in the same way, say, a business owner has to, or somebody that's been furloughed or been laid off, you see the friction that causes, because people are having to leave their jobs, having to shut down their businesses. And then frankly, government people still get their paychecks. And so that is something that I've tried to really focus on and step out of my position as Attorney General and government employee, but really step and recall those experiences my parents had as small businesses, and know that those experiences are being felt and the impact is being felt by folks all across this country. And so to the extent we can do anything to get business moving again, to get small businesses open again, we need to be in the business of doing that, doing it safely. And I'm obviously glad to see that the vaccinations have come online. And look, my wife is a school teacher and got her first shot on Friday. And so look, in the camp that says, if you can get the vaccine, that's go ahead and get it. And so anything that can help, get business going again and get our economy and get our society back up and running, I'm for. And I'm hoping that governors will start making some wise decisions and start listening to and taking in the input of citizens all across our respective states.
Are you concerned, because you're someone who travels the Commonwealth a lot, and what I tell people about Kentucky is it's got a little bit of everything, right? It's a microcosm of America, and you get a little bit of everything. You meet all kinds of different great people, but the one thing it's always taught me is you can really get perspective that you just can't get anywhere else just by going out and talking to people. And one of the things that I came away with in the 2020 cycle was I don't think we've really appreciated how badly this pandemic has separated the haves from the have-nots, and the ability of people to make a living in, sort of an old economy versus a new economy, and this complete disconnect by the American political class in a lot of ways about what's happening to an awful lot of Americans. I wonder if you can speak to that.
Yeah, look, I think you're exactly right. We've made it a policy here over the last few months to try to get out of the office, myself in particular, at least once a week, and travel again safely to one of our 120 counties each week. I was just in Nicholas County last week and Clark County as well, having those conversations, because you can sit here in Frankfurt and become completely desensitized and detached from what's going on in the remaining 119 counties and not really know how the decisions that you make here in our state capital impact folks all across Kentucky. Look, I talked about the small business or the folks that are on the, at factories and they've been furloughed or cut back because of some of the decisions that are made here in Frankfurt. That is, again, in my judgment, a pretty brazen demonstration of sort of the lack of awareness about what goes on a daily basis in communities all across Kentucky. And I think our one of the reasons that I've tried to get out at least once a week is to have these conversations. And I think it's important for all of our elected leadership, especially our statewide elected officials, to really go out. Again, do it safely, but go out, have conversations, see how the decisions that are being made are impacting folks. I think that helps in the decision-making process because you're not just listening to a group of advisors in your room or in your office, but you're taking in the input of folks all across Kentucky. And look, we've had big challenges here as it relates to unemployment benefits, and our unemployment insurance rolls have been backed up because of some overwhelming of the system, and people have had difficulty getting their benefits. And so those extra pressures on the system are all there because people, again, are not able to go out and provide for their families in the traditional way that they've been able to do prior to this pandemic. So again, as decision makers and policy makers, when we make decisions for our communities and for our counties, we've got to be empathetic to what the plight of everyday folks is. And again, I always try to think of my hometown of Hardin County in the decision-making process when we are sort of deliberating about next steps in the AG's office. It is a challenge. I admit freely that it is a challenge, but we've got to, again, stand up for the rule of law, stand up for our Constitution, and have empathy for those perhaps that don't have government paychecks that they can rely on
Here. I'm all for that. I got to let our listeners in on a little funny story before we get to our questions here, Daniel. And so the backstory is I was in attendance at the moment that you met President Trump. And and I will say, having had the privilege of going into the Oval Office on several occasions and meeting with President Trump and other presidents, I have never seen a president clear his calendar and clear the room faster than President Trump did when Daniel Cameron walked in. Was that surreal or what?
there is obviously just a sense of wonder when you walk into the Oval Office and you see the President of the United States sitting behind the Resolute desk and standing up to greet you. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I've had a couple of occasions to go back to the White House, and one other occasion to be back in the Oval Office, and it was equally amazing. But nothing really. That first time you walk into that room, and you get the overwhelming sense of the decisions that have been made there, and the presence of all the folks that have served in that role. And it was a unique experience, and it's one that I certainly won't forget.
We expected to come in, have the president shake your hand, introduce yourself, maybe a word or two. We'll take a couple pictures and, just an introduction, basically, right? That's where I thought this thing was headed.
Oh.
The next thing I know, I'm standing there. Daniel's got the chair pulled up at the Resolute desk. They're having policy discussions. It's like, you're like 9 questions deep. Before I know it, you're talking about ASAP Rocky.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. When Jared Kushner comes in with a document that has got ASAP Rocky's name on there, and it's like, is this real? Like, am I really at the White House right now? Am I engaged in this conversation? And so it was an experience and a half. I still.
Did you have any idea who ASAP Rocky was before that conversation?
I did know who ASAP Rocky was, but the most incredible part about that conversation is, and this I think is telling of the White House, is they engaged people from all walks of life and did a good job of bringing in different views and viewpoints. And I remember Jarrett looking over at me and this document in particular, and he says, "Daniel, now look, I hadn't known Jarrett more than 10 minutes, but Jarrett looks over at me and says, 'Daniel, what do you think about this?' And I said, 'Well, it looks good to me.'" And so, but I think that's the part of that folks didn't really realize about this previous administration, is that they really cared about. Look, I'm a kid from Hardin County, Kentucky. The fact that Jared Kushner would ask me a question on a public policy issue is just it is beyond my comprehension that I had that experience. I'm grateful for it. But it is something that I'm certainly going to tell my grandchildren.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell my grandchildren about it. And I was just standing there. No, that's awesome. I had to share that one, but we've got 3 big questions for you, Daniel. And I hope you've listened to the program enough to know how serious these things are.
Very.
First question is your last meal on earth. What is it?
Well, I got married last summer, and my wife, Mackenzie, makes the most amazing chicken pot pie I've ever had in my life. And I'm going to be honest with you. The other best chicken pot pie I'd had was at Cracker Barrel. And so this thing is blowing me out of the water. If I'm having a last meal, it's that chicken pot pie that Mackenzie Cameron makes.
So here's the deal. The guy's married so recently that his last meal is still from his wife. I love it. I love it. You're a romantic, sir.
Right.
All right. So if you weren't in politics, Daniel, what would you be doing with your life?
I tell you what, I would have been calling that game yesterday between the Buccaneers and Green Bay. I mean, if I could have a job in the sports industry. Of course, I played football at U of L, and I tell people all the time, really what it was the best seat in the house, because I spent a lot of time on the bench rooting for other folks that were a lot more talented than I was. But if I could do something in the sports industry, calling games or helping coach or something, that would be the second career that I choose.
So you were, just to recap, you were a D-back, right? Safety?
Yeah, I was a safety. That's exactly right. I was a very slow and small safety. So I played with some. Yeah.
You played on that Orange Bowl team, right?
On the Orange Bowl. So over 3 years we went to the Liberty Bowl and won that. We went to the Gator Bowl and lost that, and then sort of the top of that period at U of L football was a win in the Orange Bowl against Wake Forest. But it was a phenomenal experience, and you learn the value of hard work and all those things. But to say I played a lot would be generous. And I was more of a tackling dummy and a scout team player more than anything else. So.
Well, you figured out how to excel beyond that. Here's question number 3, and this is really where the money's made here, Daniel. This is a big one for all the minions. And the question is, what is a greater motivator for you, the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat?
I tell you what, I have vacillated. I've gone back and forth over this so many times. And I'm going to say the thrill of victory. And, getting the opportunity to having just come out of a campaign in 2019 and seeing everybody that came together to help in that historic race was really neat. And there were a lot of tears shed, tears of joy, and just the idea that we'd be able to do a lot of great things together. And so I'm going to say the thrill of victory.
Ever the optimist, ever the glass half full, Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, thank you so much for joining us on Ruthless.
All right, Josh, thanks. And tell your partner I said hello.
Yeah, we'll do. So is he just like the best or what?
Fantastic. Absolute superstar.
Incredible guy.
I just don't know how you don't see him as on a rocket ship to the top of national political rankings. I mean, he's got everything. He's got values to his core. He is as dynamic a speaker as we have in the Republican Party, and he's good at politics. I mean, those 3 things, boy, he can take you a long way.
I'll tell you, he was on my radar, but that really solidifies it.
Yeah.
Total
stud.
Someone to watch.
So we're gonna do more of this. We're gonna keep bringing in voices to talk about the future of the Republican Party. We're gonna do less backward-looking stuff, more forward-looking stuff, because I know you enjoy it. I know we enjoy it, and we can all agree that we need to get back into power soon.
Well, that was another fantastic episode, gentlemen. That's another good one. That's ready for the can. Let's wrap this one up. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. Stay ruthless. We'll catch you on Thursday.